it's a very good sign that you're here listening. Whether you know it or not, this is a turning point for you. You saw this episode and decided to listen, which means you're ready to shift. You're signaling to yourself that change is inevitable and you're allowing it into your life now. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Alex Film Thoughts podcast with me, your host, Alex. I am so happy you're here today, and I'm just going to get straight into the episode. So, you hit play on this episode because you wanted clarity on what you're going to do with your life and how to find out. You want a deeper understanding of yourself and how to get there. You know you need to take action, but right now you aren't sure what that action is, or you don't know what it is. You do know what it is, sorry, but you keep sabotaging yourself. Am I right? So it's a great job that you clicked on this episode because I want to help you get even 10% further to the moment when you gain that clear vision of where you're going next. So here's where you are right now. You're probably one of two people. Person one is a big time avoider. You don't want to do anything but stick your head in the sand and hope it gets better. You'll read a self-help book or watch a podcast episode that will make you feel like you're doing more than just avoiding the part where you have to make a decision or take action. So you know you're made for more, but your fears cripple you until you put your head firmly back in the sand. And person two is a go-getter. They probably sabotage themselves with distractions and procrastination. They invest in themselves more often than person one, but person two thinks one thing is going to come along and become the magic sauce that will launch you into success. So person two is going to have a lot of knowledge. They're going to have tried a few different business projects and ideas, but only have ever got to the launch stage and fell off after a few months. With this, you know you're made for more, but you won't meet your potential because it scares you. It's not that person one or person two is wrong or an anomaly or stuck forever. If you're resonating with either or both of these, it's a very good sign that you're here listening. Whether you know it or not, this is a turning point for you. You saw this episode and decided to listen, which means you're ready to shift. You're signaling to yourself that change is inevitable and you're allowing it into your life now. So I'm really proud of you for this first step. And now I'm going to tell you about the things that you need to be aware of and the steps you need to take to begin embracing it and integrating change into your life so that you gain the clarity you need to know what to do with your life next. So I was in the habit of being between person one and person two for about 3 years, long space of time. I'd started my personal development journey and I knew a lot of the foundational work, and I was really beginning to understand how I could integrate all of that work into becoming a habitual person with these habits rather than something I had to think about. So I had to break out of these two patterns, person one and person two, by breaking down my concept of self. So if you're not aware what a concept of self is, here's a really quick summary. When we talk about concept of self, we're talking about the way we think about something. It's the perceptions we have, the opinions we hold, the judgments we place against it. It's the way our brain structures thoughts around this thing. So when we talk about the concept of self, it's the perceptions we have, it's the opinions we hold, it's the judgment we place against ourselves. This can be about our values, it can be about the way we look, things we choose to believe, how we want to be perceived by others, how we want others to judge us, who we think we deserve to love, who we think our friends should be. So our concept of self really revolves a lot around the word should. We kind of war with ourselves with how we are currently and how we think we should be. So from our concept of self, our belief systems, conditioning, and self-trust, all of that, we act in ways that are both performative and authentic. And because we're human beings, we inevitably change constantly. So with our conscious and subconscious behaviors, we are innately pattern-based. So if something is a habit, we will repeat it for endless amounts of time until an interference or consciousness of that behavior spurs a change. So until we're conscious of that, nothing is going to change. So we react to triggers also in a habitual way, and we'll communicate in a habitual way, and we stick to these familiar and safe and comforting things over any kind of change, any chance we have. So then with our concept of self, we don't often challenge that unless something's put in our path, forcing us to acknowledge the truth of it. And this podcast is one of those challenges to your concept of self. By acknowledging whether you are person one or person two, you're going to have felt a type of way. You would have compared my categories of person one and person two and their characteristics against how you categorize yourself and your behaviors. And from that, you would have made a judgment on whether you are more like person one or person two, or if you feel like you disregard the concepts altogether, you feel like you don't fit in either of those categories, you're not person one, you're not person two, you're definitely not both. And because of that, they are challenging the concept you have for yourself, so you're rejecting them. So when we really get down to this question of what do I want to do with my life, what we're really struggling with is the question of how do I want to live my life and how do I want others to think I live my life? Because a lot of the time, we already know what we'd quite like to do. We already have an idea of that. We just really struggle with our own and other people's opinions of that thing. So you might want to be a content creator, but you uphold this concept of self that, or this concept that content creators are vain. They only want money and fame. They don't work hard. They shouldn't be paid for the work they do because they don't do enough work. All of these kind of narratives, right? So why on earth would you follow through with the work that needs to be done in order to be a content creator? If what you think you want to do is be a content creator, if you're thinking these things that they shouldn't get paid, da 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 da, or you know other people close to you that think that way, that means that you probably don't want to be perceived that way. You don't want to be perceived as only wanting money or fame. You probably don't want to be perceived as someone who is selfish or doesn't work hard or gets things handed to them or whatever it is, right? So why would you want the people closest to you or people that you know and value and respect their opinions? Why would you want them to think of you that way? Because you have this perception of content creators and what they're like and how they make their money and the type of people they are. Why would you put in the hard work to become a content creator when you think all of these things underlying? If you think Molly May is a sellout or a fraud or she's vain or Fiat 500 Twitter, this, that, and the other, why on earth would you want to be a content creator? Because she is really the epitome of being an influencer, a content creator. If you think footballers are whatever kind of insult you want to give them and they shouldn't be paid millions of pounds to do the job they do, why would you go to training every week? Why would you show up as you're meant to in order to get the thing that you want? So we can really take this content creator example because it's just an easy one. It's something that I do. We can take that example and expand it into whatever career or business or opportunity you want to have. So it could be a stay-at-home mum, an engineer, a fashion designer, a feminine woman, a finance bro, like whatever it is, I want you to explore how you have built a concept around this future, around this job, around this career, around this opportunity. Is it a money issue? Is it a popularity thing? Is it an embarrassment thing? You're embarrassed to have that. Is it an ability thing? You don't think you've got enough skills, whatever. So what is it you're telling yourself you can't have or you can't be surrounding this idea of the future you want for yourself? Is it that you can't possibly be a stay-at-home mum because you haven't found a partner yet? Is it that you can't be a fashion designer because you don't have the skills or the education needed or the connections or whatever? Is it that you can't be a content creator because you don't want people to think you're vain or that you're embarrassing because you're posting your videos online? What is it that you're telling yourself you can't have or you can't be surrounding this future idea of yourself. We are really biased. Sorry, we are really blind to our own biases with ourselves until a direct reflection of our behaviors triggers or activates us. And then we notice it in ourselves. So it can be that you have been shitting on other people that are living the life that you say you want, that you say is your dream life. It may be that you resent them or you make fun of them. And from that, what you're really telling yourself is that you can't have it or you don't deserve it. Now, why would you put all your energy, all your resources, all your time into something you don't think you can have, or something you think you don't deserve, or that you shit on other people for having that? You just wouldn't. You wouldn't put your time and your energy and everything into that. It's the biggest contradiction ever when you say you want something, but you're shitting on other people for having it, or you think you don't deserve it, or you're telling yourself you can't do or be it. So why would your brain tell you to be motivated by the idea of being a content creator or a designer or a stay-at-home mum? Because you've made that idea undesirable. You've made it unsafe with your concept of self around it and the concept that you think would be upheld if you were doing it. So with all of this, let's do some action points because I love to give you something to work on within an episode. So here's what you're going to do over the next week. You're going to vision board, you're going to plan, you're going to research, and you're going to get as much information as possible on the top 3 things that you want to do or that you think you might want to do with your life and your career. So I'm talking about you need to be able to tell anyone who asks exactly what that life entails, how much time they get to do fun things, how much they travel, how much they are paid, what the job progression opportunities are, what skills they need to have, who they spend their time with, what their intimate relationships might be like. This is going to immediately tell you basically if you want to live this life. If this is a life you really wouldn't mind living, if this is a life you'd hate, if this is a life that really aligns with you and your values and the things you say you want to do with your life. All of this, answering these questions, planning, vision boarding, for these 3 options, it's going to be able to tell you immediately, yes, I would quite like this life. No, I wouldn't. This isn't for me. If you want to live a life in a scientific lab and track data for huge years-long projects, I think a life as a stay-at-home mum might be a bit of a challenge. If you want to work in early years education, becoming a Marine might be a bit of a contradiction to that. If after this you still say you don't know what you want to do with the rest of your life, then you simply don't have enough information yet. You haven't done enough research, you haven't planned enough, you haven't thought this through clearly. You need to keep digging, essentially, and keep exposing the thoughts that you're harboring around the ideas that come up. So what thoughts are you harboring around being a content creator? What thoughts are you harboring around being a stay-at-home mum? What thoughts are you harboring around becoming a Marine? Keep digging into those, expose the thoughts you're having around them, become really clear with yourself on what it is about those lives that you detest or you really like, or the things that you wouldn't mind doing. Because obviously in any life there's going to be shit bits. If you're a celebrity, you have to deal with no privacy for the rest of your life. If you are an actor, you have to deal with being away from your family pretty much 24/7. If you are a nurse, you have to deal with night shifts and shift patterns. If you are a coffee shop person, you have to deal with high staff turnover and probably sometimes shit co-workers. Like there is an upside and a downside to everything, and you need to become really clear on what the downsides are and whether you're willing to live with them, what the upsides are and whether you're willing to have those, what you think you are challenged by or you think you could really deal with. You need to become so clear on what this life entails that you say you want, that if anyone questions you over your decision, you know with full clarity that this is something that you are willing to put up with, something you are excited to experience, like all of it. So like if you're feeling icky about the idea of becoming a YouTuber, Is it the concept that you have around it, around being a YouTuber, or is it the life that you truly aren't interested in? If you're not interested in being in front of a camera and making videos and editing yourself and listening to yourself talk and publishing to the internet to have people's opinions responding to you, if that's not a life you're interested in at all, then no, of course, being a YouTuber is immediately off the list. But is it actually that you would love to film yourself? You'd love to edit. You'd love to have conversations and build community online. You would love to get invited to brand events and da 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 da. And actually, it's a concept of self you have that it feels embarrassing to post yourself online. It feels cringe to have to have people's opinions posted on you about you online. You're scared of what people will say about the videos you create. You're worried that you don't have enough skills. Like, that is very different. That is a concept you have around the idea of being a YouTuber, not the fact that you are disinterested in the life it brings. So note down what elements of the life you do like, what those elements are, and note down what elements of this life that you don't like. So being a YouTuber is icky to you. What are the elements you don't like? What are the elements you do like? And then take those elements and keep it moving. You know that part of being a YouTuber is filming yourself. Well, actually, I'd quite like to film myself, but instead of filming myself to post myself on YouTube, I'd actually like to film educational videos and create a course. Okay, perfect. Do that. Now you can find something that integrates that element and move towards that. So you begin to really know by following through these steps exactly what direction you want to head in. If you know that you want to travel a lot, you're going to need a job that travels. If you know you want to have time to stay at home with your babies, you know you need a part-time or a flexible role that you can work remotely, whatever. If you don't know the actual life you want to lead yet by answering these questions, you need to continue this task with enough determination and curiosity to get there. Your commitment to finding out the answer to this question, I don't know what I want to do with my life, was a commitment you made to yourself when you clicked on this podcast episode. Whether you realized it or not, you've made a commitment to yourself to find out the answer, because by clicking on this podcast, you're hoping I have one. And although I think I have an answer that allows you to get there, no, I don't have an answer immediately that tells you what you want to do with your life. So I want you to remember this commitment to yourself, that you clicked on this podcast episode because you want to know the answer. Remember that when this episode is over, and I'm not here coaching you step by step in real time how to do it, you need to remember that the life that you desire, the answers you need in order to get there, that is all on the other side of curiosity and a willingness to do the work to find the answers and deal with those consequences of those answers, regardless of how they come, regardless of whether you need to put boundaries in place, whether you need to cut off things, whether you need to start things up, you need to work a little bit harder, you need to work a little bit less. Regardless of the consequences that come from these answers, you need to push forward with your curiosity and your willingness to find them out. Because staying stagnant in this area of, I don't know what to do with my life, I don't know what to do next, I don't know what's this, that, or the other, you're just putting it off and stretching out the amount of time that you feel uncertain and spiraling, essentially. Because all of this will lead you to a place where you feel really out of alignment with yourself. You don't feel like you're fulfilling a purpose. You are heading in a direction where your mental health is beginning to decline because you just feel like you're floating in this state of, I don't know. And that's not fun for anyone. And I don't want you to experience that. So if you have found this episode helpful and you feel like you are at least 10% closer to working out what it is you want to do with your life, then please drop a comment. I think on Spotify we have like a question and answer box. You can drop a comment there. If you're watching this on YouTube, please drop a comment. Say what it's helped you with, what your biggest kind of light bulb on moment was. And if it's not helped you, please let me know as well what you would like to hear that might help you, that might give you some answers, because I'm sure I have a thought or two about it. But really, I am just proud of you for clicking on this and making a commitment to yourself that you're going to find out the answer. Take that and run with it, you will find the answer if you continue with your curiosity. So I love you and I hope you have an amazing day. As always, if you need me, you want to talk this through further, either on a discovery call for more coaching, or you just want to chat in the DMs, then all of my socials are below. You can find the discovery call form on my website. If not, just DM me and I will send it over directly to your inbox. And yeah, I love you. I hope you have a great day. I will see you in the next episode of the Alex Beyond Thoughts podcast. Bye, guys.